last but not least for our panel, Dr. Bernhard Seliger.
Thank you very much. Actually, I speak a little broad about the question of economic reform, and we have now a very analytical approach to that, and heard about the preconditions for economic success, which would be, once you said it, Dr. Schotkin, the removal of the Kim family out of the center. But there's another debate going on, and that debate is rather, it's especially forwarded by journalists to go to Pyongyang to see what's happening there, and they speak of the already existing boom there. So maybe there's already something moving, and I want to discuss this. And I'll have a look first of all at what this boom might be about, and then I will indeed look at the special economic zones. We see, if you go to Pyongyang now, obvious big changes, and one is these are taxis from 3 different companies. One website called it the taxi war in Pyongyang going on, really, which is a very good thing because it forwards individual traveling, which is often related to individual enterprise, let's say, and basically the fact that there are so many cars. And we see the prestige projects of the regime, and we see the new buildings, and we see things like this. Actually, that's already a thing to organize perishable goods to be available in Pyongyang for hard currency, but nevertheless, it needs a lot of logistics to do so. It has been consistently the case in the last 2 years, let's say. So there is a new boom, and all of you heard certainly about the new airport, which is not only about a nice new building again, but also about lots of new airplanes, international ones like the one to Harbin, and also now to practically every province. So you have now regular scheduled flights there, which you didn't have before. So there has been something like a boom. But if you look at that boom, much of it, and especially the most obvious one, that is the building boom, rather follows old prescriptions. Because how did they do it? Basically, for 1 year, they took the students out of the universities and let them march 5,000, 10,000 apiece to these building construction places, and they constructed it. They got a little bit aid of China with the construction material, but basically it was something we saw also in the 70s or in the 80s in the Tonga Street, and before in the 60s, this huge mass campaigns. That was not really where the boom comes from. But there are sources for an economic boom, nevertheless, and the better availability of consumption goods is a sign for that. And I would say we have 2 external and 1 internal source of growth. And the first one, it's obviously trade. All of you know that trade with China quadrupled, can I say in English? Quadrupled, 4 times, the fourfold grew from this less than $1 billion to more than 6 times. I can't say that in English, but more than 6-fold increase. Interesting thing is that at the same time, trade with the rest of the world, this is with the exception of Kaesong, because it's assembled by South Korea, so they don't consider Kaesong an external trade. But with the exception of Kaesong, trade with the rest of the world decreased. So we had actually a trade disintegration with the rest of the world, but we had this strong trade development with China. And I read today a very interesting article somewhere in I guess KCNA also about this new trading house they want to establish with Russia, where it is claimed that 1/3 of the Chinese trade might be also with Russia. I guess it must refer to, would like to ask the audience, it must refer to oil, I would say, which comes maybe through China. And there's a second very important source of growth, and that is remittances. That is maybe 30 or 40,000 Koreans who work in China, plus 10,000 plus in Russia, plus thousands in the Middle East, and even in some other places, Africa and the rest of the world. The restaurants are maybe most written about, but not the most important part of this, but the textile workers and even the engineers working for, doing outsourcing work for Chinese companies and this and that. All of this adds up to remittances. So we have here really 2 hard sources of economic growth. And then we have internally the growth of the markets. There's this new, there's this new and very good study by Seliger on the growth of markets, and the attitude towards markets also is changing. I don't know, when we were in Rason this year in August, for the first time there was no problem to do photos in the markets, so they got much more open also in the markets, and not only that there are markets, but now they are also proud to show them around. That's also something, this new attitude towards the market, which had a very good effect on prices and exchange rates. As you know, that basically the galloping and hyperinflation which we saw most of the early phase of this decade stopped basically in 2012, 2013. So we have these three real sources of growth. And this might lead to then to the assessment that this policy which Pyongyang, so to be at the same time a strong economy and a strong nuclear state, might work. And one of the cases we can look at here is special economic zones, because these are maybe the most visible new point of the new policy of the strong economy of the part. We all know about the nuclear part. So my question here is, will there be investment in the new special economic zones? To say so, first of all, a very short review of the old economic zones. Three of them, I would say, worked quite well. One was a non-starter, that's a Chinese one. But Rason, the real economic zone, I call it always, because it was a zone which has a real advantage, an economic advantage, namely the harbor, which is interesting for Manchuria and to some extent maybe for Mongolia, and maybe even for Russia, for various reasons, but it's a real economic advantage. And then there were the two political zones, Kumyangsan and Kaesong, the special political zones, which also work well and which are very important in terms of opening of North Korea, but where investment was not based, investment decisions were not based on economics but on politics. That was the beginning, and now we have all these new zones, these 19 new, and we have, I think, at least 2 more added by now. So would there be investment possible in these zones? First of all, we have to say that the legal change is really impressive. There is this now 2014 edition of all the laws of North Korea related to external economics. For now it's only a Chinese, Korean version. The English version is still the 2012 version, but if you look what they did in legal change to get their zone started, there were no more than 19 laws amended or newly added, more than 20 by now, I think. And you see everything from the Customs Act, Entry and Exit Act, Trade, Export, Copyright, Trademark, Environmental Protection, and then all these things which are related to the special economic zones or the economic development zones, plus the special regulations for Rason. There also a new regulation on the labor regulation is in here. So with the Road Traffic Act, everything, so there has been a lot of change. Obviously North Korea recognizes that the legal basis is necessary, but it's unfortunately not enough. And that's what's missing now as preconditions. First of all, now if you go to North Korea, they tell you there's communication available. You can phone with your handphone, it's true. You can send email, it's true. But what you don't have is neither cheap communication, it's actually very expensive. If you set up, what was it, an internet connection in Rason, last they told us it's $1,000 a month. Is not really cheap, but they might be cheaper. All these prices are anyway political and negotiable. That's what they first told us. The more important point, there's no free communication, meaning there's no possibility to communicate with the person you want to communicate with on the time you want to do it. That is, you will get one counterpart in the company and one email address, and you can send an email there, which will then be monitored by state security, and that's all. You cannot just say I phone or I talk to the person I want to talk to. That's a big difference. And the same with access. There is access to your company in North Korea, naturally, but it's available, but it's not free. You cannot come when you want. You need a lot of steps to go through. Sometimes they can be very fast, which is 2 weeks, but it's not enough for an investor who wants maybe in 2 hours to be there or in 2 days. The rule of law, there is the existence of laws, but there's no rule of law. And I want to point out, because it was mentioned, the Orascom case, I don't know, I somehow missed it yesterday, maybe it was in the morning session, but there is no successful foreign investment in North Korea. That's very important. There's been successful trade, but no successful foreign investment. And Orascom has big difficulties now, as you know. They have all this pile of paper money which they cannot convert. Musan Mine almost was ousted when they announced they would do negotiations with the Mittal Group. And Musan Mine is the strongest investment because it's the only one by a state-owned company of China. All the smaller ones, I know a dozen cases of Europeans who tried to invest, so like with the Korea Computer Center. So all of this investment was good as long as we were in the investment phase, but as soon as a phase of reaping profits came, the investment stopped. And the same is true for Pyongyang Motors, by the way, where the Moonies have been ousted. So there is no track record of any successful foreign investment. That's very important, I think. And then the financial system, there's no financial system available. Plus then the political safety, which has, in terms of real politics, so to speak, the constant crises are hindering investment, and the brand image. And then we come to this point of infrastructure, where I later come a little to it. So this means, though we have, on the one hand, an impressive legal change, on the ground still all preconditions are missing. And I want to give you one example. This is Hungnam, which is an industrial area of Hamhung, and here's a small field. If you look at these investment zones, it's quite interesting. You find very, very small zones, 2 or 3, for example, along the Kunming River, and you could imagine that there has been a regional potentate, a regional important functionary who's in Nampo also. We have it in a very strange place who said this field or this place I want investment. So it doesn't follow any economic logic or so. And this field here now is in a way interesting for me, because Hamhung, after the Korean War, has been partly rebuilt by East German engineers. And when Kang Suk-koo went to Europe last year to award a human rights resolution in the United Nations, one thing he said is, well, you are Germans and you already have good relations with Hamhung, come and invest in Hamhung. And so some missions went there. They did presentations, actually, quite nice. Well, they did PowerPoint presentation, they can do that now on the investment zone. But on the ground it looked, well, like this. This is the investment zone. There's no way. There's this one, how do you call it, dirt track. When the first delegation came, they said you cannot use that because some Russians are digging for rare earths here. So this is the Russian way. So they said, sorry, we cannot visit the zone. Okay, but in the second visit, they made it possible for us to walk along here. It's not possible to go by car. And well, the zone is this one here now. So there's no water available. I mean, there's some wells in the ground and there's a river, but no water, no electricity. So for a special economic zone, what do you want to invest there? So what they need really for a zone like this, if they want to make it a success, would be to have a whole-scale investor there. That is somebody who makes investment possible. Chinese probably, who has a lot of, because they have a lot of experience with that. Somebody would come and take over the whole complex and then would sell it in blocks or something like this. But like this, they won't get investment. And it's sad news in a way. I mean, I speak now as a practitioner who also is interested in promoting economic cooperation with North Korea because it has been so few, but this is a non-starter for the time being. Is more trade a solution? Just generally on that, we already saw that trade with the rest of the world actually contracted. And here you see it's unfortunately not very new data. The newest we have, the EU, for example, is an important partner for for North Korea in terms of trading, the third most important export partner. But again, the numbers are so small then, if you look at the numbers. Everything else than China is really dwarfed there. And for trade, the same problem like for investment, preconditions are lacking. And we had actually a trade capacity project financed by the European Union for 3 years, and one thing which I cannot forget is when we brought some representatives of German Textile Association, and the North Koreans began to complain that they were the only ones, together with China at that time, but that is phased out now, suffering from European quotas for textile trade, which was true. And then the representatives said, well, what about your quotas? How much do you use your quotas? Well, they asked, how can we find the quotas? And he said, well, we have this European Union trading system, you have to look into the internet, if you ever do that. And naturally, there was no access for them. And then she had fortunately printed out data, and it was found out that most of the quotas were not even used, because North Koreans simply don't knew the quotas they had, so they couldn't use them really up. So there's also for trade, really the conclusion that for the time being, with the image problems companies get, with the financial, the impossibility to finance deals, with the impossibility to do deals on a more than one-time basis, more than going there and selling something, that's always possible. But trade would also not be the solution for the time being. As I said, we try to promote on our small-scale trade missions, and we work with Rason together. This is pictures from the last trade fair in August 2015. We came there with the delegation, and they had a kind of investor roundtable. And the day after our delegation came, there was this massive flooding where more than 100 people died, and the delegation was blocked for 3 days, 2 days without communication. So that also was not really successful in bringing. Well, I wouldn't say they were investors; they were business people interested in going to North Korea. But there's no question of investment there. Okay, finally, that's very important for me. Research is, I think, very good as a precondition. And these things have to be told to the North Koreans, and they can be told to them when you go there. And especially investors, they can do it better than politicians or political delegations. But if it's written down somewhere, it's also very important. I think the North Koreans, to some extent, take account of what is written about them. Not in a systematic way, but it's very important. So I would encourage North Korean review, which it does actually, to do academic research, and at the same time also to go into these policy debates.